Hey, Elyse.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you, Miss Betty?
I am doing fine, thanks.
We'll wait for a moment for Bob to join us,
Perfect.
and we'll get started.
All right. I've got a little dog sitting right next to me who typically is quiet, and then just about the time I start something, she starts barking. So I'll mute my mic as needed.
That's our new work environment, right?
Exactly. Everybody's used to it. Kids or dogs.
Kids, husbands, significant others, yeah, children. Bob was saying his mic is inaccessible.
Oh. Well, I feel good. I feel like I'm probably the least. I'm competent technology wise, but I'm not a whiz at it, and I feel like I'm probably less so than these fellas. And so I'm very pleased that I'm in here. I'm kind of patting myself on the back.
I'm right there with you, Miss Betty. Absolutely.
Yeah, this platform is just different than what we normally use on Zoom. So
it's new to, it's certainly new to me.
Yeah, the only time I've seen it is through SEDC the last time, and that's why I was telling you I did this before, and it was this same thing, and I had a lot of angst about it, and then it worked out fine. So. All right, Bob. Heck, I may have the floor.
All right, we are calling Bob right now to work out his issues. So he should be on shortly.
Okay, Elizabeth, you do want us to just wait until Bob joins, right?
You can wait if you want to. So we will just give him just a minute.
Yes, let's do.
All right.
We're seeing some comments, Betty. Can you see the comments that I see?
Yeah.
People are having trouble
accessing either, it says.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. So that's the reason they can't use their mics and cameras. Okay, that makes sense.
Makes sense. So we're live actually. I think.
Yeah. So I wonder if they'll figure it out. If Bob connected not using the presenter's email link.
True. That could be it. If everyone can see us and hear us, good morning to you. We are waiting. We're having technical difficulties with one of our consultant panelists. So if you can hear us, we will begin momentarily. Okay, I've got a good morning, Elyse. So that must mean everybody can hear us. It's a good thing we didn't use this time just to catch up personally like we normally do.
No secrets.
Good morning, everyone. We are going to continue to wait. Good morning, Peggy and Danielle and all of you out there. It's so wonderful just to see your names pop up. I'm Elyse Davis. I am the Northwest Georgia project manager for the Georgia Power Company, Community and Economic Development. I have my esteemed colleague that will be joining a breakout table later, who is Mickey Daniel. I'll introduce our speakers just a minute, but just want to take a minute to welcome all of you to this session this morning. I'm excited. I cannot wait myself to hear the responses. And there is Bob. Good morning and welcome, Bob. Don't you love technology?
Good morning. You know what? When all else fell, shut it all off, restarted again, and here I am. So.
Oh, it's so awesome to see you, Bob. It's been a long time, but it's great to see you. And it's awesome for Georgia Power is so pleased, always pleased to be a sponsor of SEDC and support all of you economic developers across SEDC service area. So we want to get started with our esteemed expert panelists this morning. And I'm going to ask each of them. I will start with Betty McIntosh. Betty is going to hopefully give us a little introduction, and then we'll move over to Bob Hess to do a little self-intro before we get into the food panelist discussion. Miss Betty, you want to go first?
Sure. I'm Betty McIntosh. I hope to see a lot of faces that I know on here. I've been in this business a long, long time. I am with Cushman Wakefield out of Atlanta. I work on all types of projects. I am on the consulting side of our business, so I work with our brokers on projects, and because of that and their varied interests, we do different types of projects. I have worked e-commerce, big box distribution, business to business, tech centers, headquarters, so a little tiny bit of retail, and back office, so a multitude of projects. And I'm anxious to be on this panel and talk about food processing, which I've done a couple of projects in that arena in the last couple of years.
Thank you, Betty. And Bob Hess, would you tell us a little bit more, for those that don't know you, a little bit more about you? I do know you. It's been a long time since I've worked a project, but we're glad to have you.
By the way, hi, Betty. Great to see you.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
Bob and I are former colleagues. So.
That's right. So my name is Bob Hess. I'm Vice Chairman and Managing Principal of Newmark's Global Consulting Group. And I'm a 30-plus year veteran of many projects, maybe even approaching hundreds, and all over the 25 countries. I'm part of our Global Corporate Services program here at Newmark. It's about 1,000-person platform for outsourcing of real estate and project management, facility management. But I'm on the consulting side. I've been in that space. Never mind my management job, but I'm a definitely corporate site selector. Love the business. Been around a long time. I just got back from Orlando last week at a previous conference where we were live. It was great to be there. And I work a lot of industries right now, but life sciences is exploding. We will talk about consumer products and food and beverage today. Durable goods, the whole EV automotive sector is hotter than a pistol right now. And, we're involved in a lot of different asset types here at the company. So the whole real estate life cycle. So happy to talk about that today. And great to be here.
Thank you so much, Betty and Bob. I tell you, I'm just honored to be with these two because I consider both of them as mentors. I've worked projects with them when I was a local practitioner. I've been in the business myself, I'll just say 30 years plus, and I won't go any further than that. But I am just honored to be here as well. So Betty and Bob, it seems as though the food and beverage related projects remain among the most active segments, especially since the pandemic over the past 12 to 18 months. Betty, I'll toss this one to you first and then ask Bob if he has anything to add, but what would you attribute this to?
Well, I think food and beverage has been pretty robust for a number of years, even pre-pandemic. But I think what we're seeing now is just, if you think about it, with restaurants closing during the pandemic, food services, a lot of food services dried up for a while until people started cooking on their own, and which, for a lot of people, they probably ate out or, ordered in for many of their meals. So I think you're seeing a big surge of home kits for cooking, which has a whole different thing. You know, it's new, and certainly the purveyors have to provide that service, and then those companies have to have bigger spaces. And then you're seeing a lot of specialty foods as well, and that trend had started before the pandemic with, you know, high-end specialty products, particularly organic and natural products. People are so much more into that sort of thing. Gluten-free products, you know, all the nutritional types of products on the market. And you saw a lot of the big companies buying up some of the smaller companies that specialized in those areas so they could just immediately get in the market. And now I think there's just a lot of pent-up demand. It's funny. I mean, I don't know how much we can eat, but you know, the restaurants are open now. People are going out. And so I don't know if some of this is just pent-up demand, and now they can't meet that demand with their existing facilities. And then I think it's just a good time too. I've got a company right now I'm working with that's a food processing, and they're considering moving from California to a less expensive production center and a state-of-the-art, you know, to upgrade what they're doing. And I think you know, you're seeing a lot of that as well. What do you think, Bob?
Well, you laid it out very nicely, and I'll kind of geek out on you a little bit and be a supply chain professional.
Okay.
I think you've taken some, Betty's spot on. This whole craze of COVID accelerated demand, but what some of the food companies have also done, they've kind of done some SKU rationalization. So they've gotten rid of some things that kind of like generally they had to inventory, right? And then they focused in on the money makers, which are accelerating like a ton. So that is another thing too. We've kind of trimmed more things into a normal curve of inventory. It's kind of like, whoa, and now the curve looks way like that. Okay. So there's an inventory supply chain optimization side of this too, to meet the consumer demand and get rid of things that aren't making money, slow movers, things of that sort. So that's what I would add to Betty's excellent introduction.
Awesome. Well, there's one thing we can safely say. If there is a recession-proof industry, it's probably going to be food and beverage, because people are going to find the money to drink beer, to drink their alcohol, to drink wine, and to eat foods, right? Or is that pretty safe to say? If there is a recession-proof.
Yeah, you know, Elyse, I'd like to mention something too. Some new friends are forming in beverage, especially, where you've got some people that do the canning that are actually co-locating on sites with people that do the actual beverage side, and they're coming together with these big campuses. So yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's some big campuses resulting from this too.
Yes, we're seeing some in Georgia. I can definitely attest to that. If you're a local economic developer and one of your target industries is food and beverage, what advice would you give the local practitioner to improve or maximize their chances of being considered for the new food and beverage type projects that you're seeing?
Well, if you don't mind, I'll start, because we just made a presentation to a client a couple of days ago who was considering a plant expansion in Phoenix. Let me tell you, for this industry of food processing and beverage, I'm going to go fundamental on you, everybody in SEDC. You got to have sites. You got to have buildings, the utilities, right? Water, sewer, power, gas, especially the water and sewer. By the way, I've found that the capital system, the infrastructure system about water and sewer is quite constrained across the country. Some areas do fine, and they're going to win their fair share of these food projects, and they should be promoting that. But others, I find some of the municipal systems and some of the people in that area that they're having a hard time getting capital. They were hit hard with COVID, to expand the wastewater treatment plants, the water plants. They need to build new wells, So this is an industry that's going to need water, and big time, right? For certain, unless you're into packaging or dry goods, things of that sort. And the last thing I want to mention, I'm sure Betty and I will hit this next. The whole issue of labor. I mean, with what happened with the CARES Act and then the recent administration on unemployment rates. I'm not going to get political here, but some of these companies have had to shut down for a week or two because nobody would come to work. And, you know, this is I'll call it the lesser skilled or mid-skilled area. They've been struggling, food processing companies that are, let's say, more on the lower skill side of just getting people. So, you know, so they're going to move into more automation, and they're spending. So the tipping point for automation is here. So that means, you know, you really got to understand your workforce and your labor market. It's really, really important, and how to source maybe unusual types of labor that are not even nearby your community, that might be cohorts outside of the community. So those are things that really the basic fundamentals for food processing. Betty, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And I think the other thing, communities need to sit down and think about their incentive programs as well, because what I'm facing in some areas, you know, food processing wages are not the $25 an hour jobs. Right. They're the, you know, maybe $16 an hour average, and that includes the higher skill, the supervisors and the maintenance. And so, you know, but as Bob says, automation's coming, new equipment, the investment. You're seeing a lot of cold storage, which also brings about a huge investment. These companies that are putting in this stuff, they are looking at long-term leases, so they're planning on being there. So, you know, I really need communities to think about, you know, those jobs. I mean, if you have 400 jobs at $16 an hour, you know, translate that into 200 jobs at twice that, you know, interpret it a little bit different way and look at the impact of the payroll, total payroll, and then also, you know, significant investment for incentives. Because, you know, I am really finding that it is difficult in some areas of the country for incentives. Everybody wants a $50,000 a year job, and that's just not what food processing is. And your community may not want it, but there's still really good jobs with generally good benefits for great companies, and, you know, long-term career types of jobs. So, you know, I think that's important as well. And again, you just have to sit down and have that discussion with your leadership and determine, you know, how much you want to go out on a limb, but put the whole economic impact, look at all of it, not just a standard, oh, we've got to have jobs that are, you know, $20 an hour. And if you don't have that, we're not going to talk to you.
Yeah. I think the other thing that comes into mind, I'll just give you an example. Betty nailed it about the economic impact. Now, some companies are going to have to go to school. This client I was working with just a few months ago was at $13.50 an hour in Phoenix. That's not going to work.
No.
Nobody would come to work. So they raised it to 15. Now they had a much better response, and now they're back open again. And we've already told them they don't need to go to $17.50 within the next 6 months. So they're under a lot of margin pressure. Like when you're a food company, you went from $13.50 to $17.50 overnight. But that's just the reality of that industry and the market right now. Is it short-term or temporary? Some, but I think with Amazon paying $16 across the country, I'm sorry, food processors are going to have to go to school about what a competitive wage is.
Exactly.
I agree. And, you know, again, like you say, there's pressure everywhere. And I know, you know, we do have a labor shortage, and I know there's a lot of talk about the unemployment benefits creating issues for low-end jobs. But if you think about it, the reality is, you know, distribution has gone just nuts. I mean, we're having the strongest industrial market that ever, I think, so far this year. And 2020 was a record year. And so, you know, those $15 an hour jobs are in competition, like you say, with the Amazons and with all the other distribution facilities. So the food processing, you know, that's who they're competing with on those less skilled jobs. And so there's a lot of wage pressure. And, you know, the reality of it is they are going to have to pay more, and they're going to have to do more, have more flexibility, and offer better benefits and things like that to attract and keep those workers. So, you know, from a community standpoint, that's all good news, because these are going to be really good jobs. And then I think one other thing I might mention is what I've seen is most of the food processing companies don't want to commit too far out, but typically, so they come in very conservative with how much investment, production, and labor, but they grow. If they're going to be there for 15 years, and, one of the telltale signs is look at the size of the facility they're taking. If there's room in there to grow, it is doubtful, unless their market goes really south, it is doubtful they're just going to let that square feet sit there with no production on it. They're planning on growing it. They just don't want to commit until they know, what the future looks like.
Absolutely. Such great discussion. And we had a comment from one of our participants, I think Bob may have originally touched on, that a lot of these companies are making up for the lower wages with more offerings and things, creative approaches like offering the signing bonuses and more time off, or a more flexible schedule in terms of a work week. We're seeing all of these things in our part of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. They're playing around with shifts. My client is right now. My client supplies Starbucks. I won't say who they are, but let me tell you, Starbucks is putting pressure on them like crazy, because Starbucks is going through the same thing. It moves down the value chain, right?
Yes.
And so, different type shift structures. They're also, signing bonuses. Actually, daycare has emerged as another very, very important component here. And by the way, shorter hours. Somebody not working a 40-hour week, or maybe a 30-hour week in a food processing plant. And heads of operations never went there before, but they're considering those issues right now. My client is right now. So you could have several people, more people at 30 hours a week and make the same production goals. So yeah, there's a lot of creativity going on right now. And then there's a couple other things that have come into play. Diversity hits this sector very, very importantly.
Yes.
And then of course, this is going to move right down into the workforce development initiatives of all of the communities and states here on the phone or video to support that in ways they've never done before. So
exactly. And as we move into our table topics with Betty and Bob, I want you to think about the questions that you may have for them. I would love for us to have time. I think our time is running the first 20 minutes of our session. I think our time is running out and will be transferred to tables. But guys, local practitioners, you have really been given some great tips. One thing is understanding your workforce. That is being able to take the data and understand and help your companies to understand, because some of you have maybe some lower wage companies in your region, and helping not only food and beverage, but all of your companies to understand. And they don't like to hear. Sometimes it's hard as the local practitioner to be that messenger of, hey, you just can't compete. You can't pay $12 an hour. You can't, you really, I can tell you, just in Northwest Georgia, you really can't pay less than $15 an hour unless you want to have a constant turnover. This has been great discussion, Betty and Bob. Thank you so much. I would love for us to, for you guys in the audience to think about diversity, equity, and inclusion as you move into these tables, and ask these consultants what they are seeing, because certainly from a statewide economic development and region-wide perspective, we're starting to see DE&I become more of an issue in the site location search process. I think you guys have touched on that. So I'm sort of waiting on a cue from Elizabeth or Jean or Matt as to when we will be moved. Or can we just continue this wonderful discussion? Because I have a million questions myself. I'm just waiting. They may automatically put us in these rooms. We'll go back to tables now. So we're going to do our breakouts. It has been awesome to have you two on a panel. I wish we could all be in person, but we'll get to do that maybe in November. So let's shift back to our tables, and you should have a moderator at one of the Georgia Power tables. Mickey Daniel and myself will be there with Bob and Betty to expand our conversations and to give you the opportunity to ask them direct questions. It has been awesome this morning. So I'll wait for us to be moved. Take us off the stage.